Will Big E finally return next week to save the New Day? Let's talk about all of that and more. Welcome to Allison Analysis. I'm Ben Allison and I've analysed last night's episode of Monday Night Raw, and here are my 5 key findings. In at number 5, what's next for the tag team champions? Last night, Balor and JD made only their second successful defense as they defended against the War Raiders, and honestly, I really enjoyed the match. But I did fully expect the War Raiders to win going in. I mean, Balor and JD, their reign has, to put it bluntly, awful. They barely defended the titles, not much has happened, they've not really had any feuds at all. They've been pinned, I think, twice in non-title matches. I mean, if they did lose the titles last night, they probably would have gone down as one of the worst tag team champions ever. And I do feel like if the War Raiders did win, they would have been the breath of fresh air which the tag team division desperately needed on Raw. But hey, clearly WWE aren't done with JD and Balor yet, and they must have a reason for it. Which leads to that reason. What's next for them? One possibility could just be that WWE did not want JD and Balor to lose after only one title defense. Maybe the plan was for them to cheat to retain here, and then to do another match against the War Raiders in a few weeks' time, perhaps in a steel cage or something like that, where the Judgment Day can't cheat to win, and that's when they give the titles to the War Raiders. And then perhaps that would be enough just about so JD and Balor wouldn't go down as the worst tag team champions ever, but even then, I'm not sure how much that does for the reign. So my prediction is that WWE have already decided who they want Balor and JD to lose the titles to, and I don't think it's going to be the War Raiders, but I am going to get onto my prediction later on. In at number 4, WWE are finally introducing a Women's Intercontinental Championship, and now is the perfect time. Listen, I understand some people wanted the Women's US title to be a cross-brand championship, and I understand that, but here's the thing, if the men have 2 singles titles, then the women should as well. It's only fair, and if I'm being completely honest, I would have actually probably been in favor of scrapping the men's US title, giving that to the women's division, and then having both the men's IC and the women's US be across both brands. But hey, obviously they didn't want to do that, so they've done this instead. But if you were going to introduce 2 women's singles titles, now is exactly the right time. And the reason for that is we know, according to reports, Raw and SmackDown are going to go to 3 hours in January until about WrestleMania time. So if you wanted to build a division, now is the time, because you will literally have more time. The only concern, and it's very easily fixable, is that the Raw mid-card division is a lot smaller compared to the SmackDown Women's mid-card division, so I don't think there's as many options for this tournament. But thankfully, WWE do have a developmental brand, NXT, which currently has more women than men on that roster. So I think they could easily just call up a few names to Raw. Now is the perfect time to do it. Plus, you have names like Kiana James, who's on Raw, who hasn't done anything. I think she's been out injured. If she's able to come back, now is the perfect time for her. But it's an exciting time for women's wrestling in WWE, and I'm really excited about it. In at number 3, Bianca Belair isn't one to easily forgive. Last night, Bianca Belair made it clear that not only does she not trust Rhea Ripley, but she does not trust Bayley as well. And sure, in the main event, Bayley probably earned some brownie points, probably enough to get her in the War Games match. It's clear Bianca Belair still doesn't trust a lot of her team, and I like that. Something I've always hated in wrestling is when babyfaces suddenly forgive their rivals. It makes no sense to me. It's just like, oh, you're a good guy now too. Okay, we're best friends. Yay! It's always really bugged me, and I'm glad they're not doing that here. And hey, some people are naturally more forgiving than others. For example, Rhea Ripley and Io Sky have been fine. In that segment last night, they were completely fine together. But Bianca Belair, on the other hand, with them certainly is not. But talking about Io Sky, if Bayley does get added to this match, that will be very interesting, because it was only a number of months ago that Io Sky turned on Bayley and kicked her out of Damage Control. They had that big WrestleMania match, so now could they coexist on the same team? I mean, that story needs to feel like a big deal heading into this match if Bayley is indeed the 5th member. They can't just gloss over that, because that is a huge elephant in the room. In at number 2, are WWE turning Gunther face? I mean, surely not. They wouldn't, would they? I mean, the reason I say this is his booking right now is babyface booking 101. The odds are against him. He's got no momentum and he's starting to doubt himself. I mean, genuinely, subconsciously, I'm almost rooting for Gunther against Damian Priest because of how this feud is being booked. It's so bizarre, and of course, it all goes back to Cody beating Gunther at Crown Jewel, and I am glad they haven't ignored that. I'm glad they haven't just moved on and pretend it didn't happen. They are acknowledging it. They are saying, okay, this happened, Gunther's now lost his confidence. Okay, I don't mind that. But I'm just really curious as to where they're going from here. I mean, the dude is legitimately one of the best heels in professional wrestling and one of the best heels we've seen in quite a number of years as well. He's an arrogant heel who really does what he says he's going to do, and that's so frustrating. And I always say there's some baby faces who shouldn't be heels. Well, Gunther is a heel who should never be a face. So I hope they're not turning him here. And I don't think they are either. It's very bizarre because they are booking him right now like he's going to have a face turn. But before we get to number 1, if you guys could like and subscribe, that would be massively appreciated. Here at Wrestling Republic, we create between 5 to 10 free videos every single week, in addition to a live stream every single day, 8 PM UK, 3 PM Eastern, 12 PM Pacific. I really hope to see you guys there. Thank you. And in at number 1, will Big E return next week? I've said it for months now. This New Day storyline is either going to end with them splitting up or the return of Big E. And next week, it's time we find out. The 10-year anniversary of the New Day, and I'm really hoping they don't split up. The backstage argument last night between Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods was absolutely phenomenal. It was one of the best backstage segments I've seen in quite some time because there was a lot of truth to what both men were saying. Woods is obviously jealous that he's never won that championship, that main roster singles championship. But Kofi Kingston, he kind of feels that it's Woods' own fault. And they kept going back and forth. It made a lot of sense and it was a really well done segment. But how good would it be if Big E returned next week and he's the glue to bring these two back together? And while I'd absolutely love for it to be a return to the ring for Big E, even if it's just him in a manager role being in the corner of the New Day week in and week out, that would be brilliant. Of course, in-ring would be ideal, but even as that manager at ringside, that could be the change that the New Day desperately needs. And I have a feeling the reason JD McDonough and Finn Balor retained the World Tag Team Championships last night was because WWE are planning for the New Day to eventually be the ones to beat the Judgment Day to take those titles, and I would absolutely love that. But overall, I really enjoyed last night's episode of Monday Night Raw. I mean, it definitely wasn't anywhere near as newsworthy as SmackDown was this week, but it was a fun episode. It built to the pay-per-view well, and again, that New Day segment was absolutely exceptional. But what did you guys think of the show? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye-bye-bye!